Hey guys, it's Tessa. So, as you can see, we have some finished objects here. So firstly, as I mentioned in my last video, this is a modified Jessie May ripple bralette, and I talk all about that pattern in that video, so go check it out or pin the card or click the card or whatever it's called. And then secondly, we have my Daft Days cardigan completed. These both basically came off the blocking mats roughly at the same time. So here's this for you. I believe I talked quite a bit about this pattern in the final part of the Daft Days series, so glad that's finally done. But quick thoughts, feelings, and opinions on the Jessie May top, in case you don't want to watch the other video. Pattern's fine. I modified it significantly. Top is great. Love it. The Daft Days cardigan, pretty fine. I think personally my issue is I did make a much larger size than I needed, so I think this is kind of skewed a little bit for myself. Sleeves I feel like cone a little quickly for my preference, but I did get that mostly blocked out when I finished the garment. I overall really like it. I love the yarn I used. For the Jessie May top, this is the Drops Baby Merino and Petrol, while this is the Wonderland Fibers. Hold on, I got my little knitting book here. Wonderland Dye Works, there we go. In the color Deep Ember, and then that's for the orange, and then the brown is the Sea Change Fibers in the color Odile. This is I found out the problem, okay? So the problem I had with this cardigan, one of the few problems I had, was my brown yarn and the orange yarn looked like two different weights. Fun fact, they are two different weights. The Odile is more of an Aran, while the orange is more, or the Deep Ember is more of a DK, which is a little annoying but worked out fine for me. I thought that would mean I would use more of the DK weight, but no. It's roughly the same. Like if you look at the sleeve here or look at the striping in general, you'll see that the stripe widths are about the same each. So really having the two different yarn weights didn't seem to impact the pattern very much, which is nice. This is a very cozy cardigan. Because I knit it at 0.25 millimeters larger than I was supposed to. It's a little bit more airy for me than I think it's supposed to be, but I also only did that because my gauge swatch came out so incredibly tight. When I blocked my gauge swatch, I had to pin the ever-living shit out of it in order to hit gauge. So that was not very exciting or very high hopes for me. But with that, I ended up doing, instead of 3.75 for the main body, or the main needles, oh my gosh, I did 4 millimeter for the main needles and 3.5, I believe, for the ribbing, or 3.25, I don't really remember. Specifically, I say I don't really remember because one of my cuffs is slightly longer than the other, yet they have the exact same amount of rows. How do I know they have the exact same amount of rows? Because I wrote it down when I finished the first sleeve. So they each have 12 rows making up the cuff here. However, this cuff is much shorter than this one by like, not even much shorter. It's really only shorter by like a centimeter or half a centimeter, which really isn't much, but I kind of notice it because I'm a little neurotic about my clothing. Again, no, that's not a Rebecca Clow problem or a Cray-Baya problem, that's a me problem. And like I said, the sizing is a little bit large. I think I also could have blocked this a little bit more aggressively to get better stitch definition, but I was a little bit worried about being too aggressive with the blocking and like ruining the shaping or something. One thing I'll note as well, I wear my knits a lot. Like I try to wear them pretty frequently because I like the way they feel, obviously. But I've only worn the Daft Days cardigan probably 3-4 times maybe. And I'm already starting to get some pilling under the arm here of both of them, both the sleeves. I, again, don't use natural fibers very often, so I don't know how common that really is. Also, sorry if you hear Gibby whining at all. He loves to be center of attention. But I don't know how common that is with like a non-superwash wool, because even the Jessie May top is superwash and it's starting to pill as well, but I wear it quite a bit more frequently than this cardigan, so kind of makes sense. But I'm not mad at it. I think it's very nice. I was expecting this to be a much more cropped cardigan. That's also partially why I'm confused here. Again, I think something happened with my gauge swatch. I don't know what. But again, my gauge swatch, I had to pin quite extensively to get to the right size. So when I'm following the pattern, knowing this is going to be a cropped cardigan, and I knit 10 inches for the back panel, or 8 inches, whatever it was, for the panel before splitting, I was like, oh, it's not going to grow very much because, you know, it didn't in the first place. But then it grew exponentially. And it, like you see, is down to past my waist. This is just at my thigh. So that's pretty interesting. Another thing, and this is just maybe personal gripe because I'm very weird about my clothing. Why do none of the cardigan patterns I've made end of last year, started this year, have short row shaping? What is the deal with that? Anyway, that's another story for another day. Today's video is actually supposed to be, after 6 minutes of recording, ranting, today's video is actually supposed to be on my thoughts on the I hate purling trend. So to be clear, I was part of that group of people. I hated purling. I thought it was so freaking irritating because I'm left-handed and I knit in a traditional, like, English style, I believe, not continental, English style. I also taught myself how to knit backwards, or tink as some people call it, but it's just knitting backwards, continentally. So I can knit English, and then instead of having to flip for purling, I just knit continental, which was awesome for a while until I realized how badly that makes my gauge all messed up because I can't get as tight of stitches when I'm doing the continental, which is interesting. But why I hated purling mostly was because I thought it was really uncomfortable for my hands to purl, because it's the extra step of like having to spin the yarn an extra bit or move my wrist an extra amount, and if I'm doing that for an entire row, I'm gonna lose my mind. So the first thing I kind of did to get out of not liking how to purl was I taught myself continental, as we know, but I don't love purling continental either. I think for me it's just more of a like dexterity thing. Like I just don't think I'm maybe dexterous enough to like fully catch how to do it. I used to do Norwegian purls when I would do continental because I didn't like normal continental. Every time I say that word, I feel like I'm not saying it correctly anymore. That's the story. Continental. I don't know. Anyway, but when I did continental knitting, or when I do continental knitting, I do Norwegian purls because I feel like they're a little bit easier for my brain to register and keep my tension stable. But I realized even then I didn't love purling. As a lot of you know at this point, the original version of the brown and green cardigan that you saw me wear a couple videos ago was a striped cardigan, and it was going to be steeped. Okay, so I was just knitting it around forever and ever, and that's when I realized I don't like just doing the same stitch forever. I think that's where my problem really lies. It's not me hating purling, it's me not liking doing the same stitch for too long, because then I just get bored of it. My brain doesn't find it interesting or engaging. So my switch for that essentially was to start knitting ribbing and just be fine with it, because I know, you know, if I'm purling, then hopefully I'm getting something that I will like out of the deal. For this top, it uses a specific stitch pattern, or not top, for this sweater, it uses a specific stitch pattern that includes me to purl every other row, which sucked. I won't lie, it sucked for a while, if I'm being honest. But once I really saw the pattern taking shape and all of that, I realized I loved it, or I thought it looked really nice at least, in that I didn't mind continuing to do it. I think my other reason for not liking purling also is rooted in my tension being so off on my purl rows, because I found out that I knit tighter than I purl. So when I do my purl rows, if I'm using the same needles on both sides of my cable or whatever, I notice that my purl stitches are much looser than my knit stitches, and I get that jogging that occurs, which most of the time that blocks out, no biggie. However, that does not block out if your jogs are huge, like mine always were. So my strategy to kind of fix this has been in my left hand when I'm knitting the knit side of my garment is the larger needle. Hold on. When I'm knitting the front side, okay. So when I'm knitting the front side or the knit side of a garment, my smaller needle is in my left hand and my larger needle is in my right hand, and then when purling it's reversed. So on the purl side, at the wrong side, larger needle on my left, smaller needle on my right. And that has seemed to completely fix the jogging issue I would have, and also my tension issues, which is really nice. One of the projects I'm working on that I checked this with is my birthday cardigan, which I have feelings on, we'll talk about very briefly. But I am a decent way through the back panel here. And personally, I don't love this yarn combination. I thought I really would. This is the Knitting for Olive in the colors Cardamom for the merino and then Dusty Moose for the mohair. I feel like this yarn just looks like a dust bunny. And I can't get over it, so I'm considering finishing it first. I'm gonna finish it first, and then I'm considering dyeing the whole cardigan, maybe like a medium to dark brown, I don't know, or even just like a darker gray. I'll just take a darker gray at this point. Like I'm not loving it, and I really liked the way the swatches turned out. I'm wondering if maybe the color looks a little bit different once it's been blocked. I don't know why that would occur, maybe because of the mohair or something. I'm gonna commit regardless. I'm committing. I'm using all this yarn for this project. I'm gonna finish it, block it, and then if I still don't like the color, I'm gonna dye it, because I think that's kind of my only option at that point. But with this pattern, the way I am doing my knitting is when I have my right side in front of me, I have my 4mm in my left hand, and I have my 4.5 in my right hand, and vice versa for the purl or wrong side of the fabric. And that seems to completely have fixed my jogging issue, especially since I am switching back and forth between knitting and purling on the front and back panels, which is really nice. But again, I think my issue with purling isn't even with purling itself, it was with tension issues. So I wouldn't enjoy purling knowing that I'm going to get all these gaps or I'm going to have this tension issue and it's not going to look perfect. I've also come to love purling because I love the waffle stitch. Little not known fact about me, love the waffle stitch. I want to make the waffle loops cardigan by Other Loops, I believe, desperately at this point. Or excuse me, it's the waffle loops sweater, not cardigan. But I want to make it desperately because I love the waffle stitch so much. But I think that's kind of all I have to say on this. If you have any commentary regarding the hatred of purling or purling in general, leave a comment below. If you want to see more of the stuff I make and my commentary on some of these things, subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.